We continue our journey creating a Flask blog from scratch. And today I want to cover how to create databases for our Flask app. We just created templates, we created blueprints, but there is no way we can persist the data inside the app. I will change something a little bit, the way I present these tutorials. I was looking my channel, the backend. I was looking the viewers and the videos, and I discovered that people don't stick around watching all the way. Only watch maybe the first minute or the second minute or whatever. Whatever the situation is, I want to change it so that I will create the code and I will complete the snippet, and then I will explain it what I did so that you don't have to sit through the code as I type it. What I would do is I will write the feature and then I will comment it afterwards. And if you are concerned recreating the code later, don't worry. It will be in the GitHub account. In the description below, I will put the source code there. You don't have to miss anything. You will not miss anything. So today we will create a database for the application. This development server will be using SQLite. But when we put this application in a hosting service, we will use MySQL, which is a lot more efficient and powerful than SQLite. Let's create a database for our application. Our database would contain a user table, and it will also have a post table, which is going to allow us to write blogs, short blogs or long blogs, and we also will create users. The user and the post table, we have to set a couple of things. The first thing we have to do is to install a couple of packages. The first one would be Flask SQL Alchemy. We'll install Flask Migrate. Also, later we would need Flask Login so that we can let the user log in and log out and keep track of login sessions. After we install all these three packages, what we would do is we will go to a config, and in config we will create the path for the database, our SQLite database. We will say OS, it will be hosted there. Inside the config class, we will say SQL Alchemy database URI OS, and we're gonna name it app.dp. And lastly, we don't want the SQL Alchemy to do a lot of modifications, so we will disable that. Then in our init file, we will import the Flask SQL Alchemy. We also need to import the Flask Migrate. Here we will say dp SQL Alchemy, say migrate init. We will initialize db app, and the migration we will initialize the app and the dp at the bottom of the file. After we return the app, we want to import the user. The reason we put it here is we want to make sure that we are not having circular imports. So now we want to create models file. I already created a snippet. I already wrote the user. So I will explain it everything. Here we from app import dp. So here we created the user. First we imported db from app, and we are going to the init file, and we are importing this. This is what we are importing, right, in our models. Here is called a datetime. The datetime module, we want to create it when we want to add extra fields, like when the user was created, when the post was created or updated, something like that. We want to have this module imported so that we can have access to the classes attached. And here is the security for the password. When we want to generate a password, when we want to check a password, the password hash. You don't want to create the password as a text, because if your app is hacked, hackers would have the raw text, which would be a very good idea. So here we create a user class here, the user table, this SQL Alchemy. This is the object model. Actually, what this is doing, it is mapping this user to SQL statements. Makes it very, very easy for Python developers to create tables in this SQLite database. So here's the user. We inherit from a DB model, db.model, and here is the ID of the user. It's a primary key. Here is a username that we chose, email field. This would be the hash, the password hash. Here are the posts. So we want to make sure that every user has many posts. So this would be one to many relationships. It will be one user, many blogs. And here are basic methods for the password: set password, check password. You set the password when you are registering the user, and you check the password when someone is logging in. And here is it's basically error handling and just debugging purposes. This Reaper function to just see what the user is in the shell. We go back to our snippet file. I want to also copy this post. We go back to the models and we paste it here. Similarly, we create a post class. It inherits from the db.model class. It has an ID, which is a primary key. Title, the title of the post. It will only have 140 characters title, and it will not be a null. Someone creates the post, he has to give a title. It wouldn't be a post without a title. And the body didn't add any nullable here. We can add it if we want. We can say, in order a post to be created, it has to have a title and body. I don't want to give it now. Timestamp is when the post was created, UTC zone. So essentially, whatever the UTC time is when the post was created, we will set it to timestamp. And here is the relationship. In the relationship field, we store the user ID here. We will say db.column, db.integer, db foreign key. The foreign key would be the user.id, and nullable will be false, because we don't want a post to be created without having user ID. It doesn't make any sense. Every post has to have a user or an author. Make sure that you are adding nullable to false. I also forgot to add the user model. We want to add created at, so we know when the user was created. So let's try to create the database and do the migrations. So you would say Flask DB init could not URI. I made some mistake. The error was I made a mistake when I was writing the URI for the DB in the config class. So our old URI was this, right? And the way you write is, instead of writing the SQLite after the OS path, you write before. This would be correct. I don't know why I wrote it this way. Delete the previous one, save it, and in order to create the DB, what you would say, flag DB init. So after you create the DP, you would do the migration. Flask DB migrate. The migrations were created, no errors, and then you would say Flask DB upgrade. Now our tables were created. I also remembered yesterday I made a mistake, errors print. So in our errors blueprint, if you go to handler file, I noticed that instead of writing 500, I wrote 504.html, which is obviously not what we intended. It would be 500. If you clone the repo and you saw an error related to 500 error, please correct it, because we don't have 504 HTML. We have 500. Here are the only two HTML files that we have, 404 and 500. So let's check if the user table and the post table was created. We say Flask shell from app.models. And we say import all, and they will say so there's no users. How about posts? There's no posts, there's no users. So everything is working correctly. The next thing that we would do is we will create templates that the user needs to register, application, log in, and see their user page or the index. We will do that next. The login functionality for our application. So we will go to, I have here the snippets that I wrote. So we'll go to init file. So we will import the Flask login here. We will initialize initialize the login manager, and also we need to point user to the login page if they are not already logged in, so that if the user is not logged in and they want to access the index page, for example, the app will force them to log in because of login required. And we will also need to register in the application here. Login function, we want to rewrite the login function inside the auth blueprint. So we will copy this. We will go to the auth blueprint. We will go to the routes, and we have the old login here, which we don't need because we just use this to test our application. So we will paste it here. What I did was I imported the user model from models file. Here also we imported the login user. We imported the current user, and we imported the login required. We don't actually need login required because this route is only responsible for logging in the user and registering the user. So we don't actually need login required, and we don't also need logout user, because if the user is in this page, when we are calling this page, we are only interested in authentication. We're only interested in logging in and registering. We don't care about the logout. The logout should be inside the main blueprint where the index is, so that if the user wants to log out, we can call it. Inside login function, we accept the get request and post request, because we want to make sure that the user can post something. They can provide their username and their password. Here we check if the current user is authenticated. If the person already authenticated, we don't want to show the login page because that would be pointless. We want to redirect to the index. The code is here. That means the current user is not authenticated. And in that case, we will say we will accept their username here. We will accept we will get the username from the form, the login form. In this if statement, we will check if there is a user, and if the user is not none, or the user password is incorrect. We check if the password provided, the password hash provided is not matching the already password the user set when they created the user, right? And in this area, if the code is here, that means either the user doesn't exist or the password is incorrect. In that case, we will say invalid username or password, and we will redirect them to the login again. In this area, login user, if the code is here, then it means the user is a valid user. They provided their credentials, and we will log in. We will log them into the app, and we will also get the remember me if they check that, and we will redirect them to the next page. So if we try to test this login function, what we would do is Flask. In order for us to show a logout link in the nav bar, we have to edit base.html. Here we say, but we don't want to show login all the time. We want to show only login when the user is not logged in. Otherwise, we will show logged out. If they're already logged in, we will show logout. We will say if current user is authenticated, we will show logout. Otherwise, we will show login. And if. So we'll say link logout. And we haven't created the logout function yet, but we will create it. We will create it soon. So we'll say URL 4. So we will go to the main blueprint routes, and we will login required, logout user. That would be it. So here at the bottom, we will say at pp logout, and we will say logout user, and we will return redirect main.index. We will redirect them to the index page. Let's run the application. So now we want to log in, but we haven't created the register route. Let's create that. I already created the function beforehand, so we're going to copy this, and we will go to the auth blueprint, and after the login function, we will paste it here. Instead of just importing one form, we will import all of the forms, login and the register that we will create soon. And the user is imported here. This is the register form. We will copy this. We will go to the auth blueprints forms. We will paste it here. Here is the username. We need to import the user. So I think here we need to cut this and paste it here. So the length email equal to validator, created the registration form here. Inside the routes, we need to create a function for registration. I think I already wrote that. Yeah, here is the register function. We'll copy this and we will paste it here. So the code isn't that different than the login. So we create a register function. We set the form here. When the form is validated, we check the user by getting the username and email, right? The user registering their information, the username and email. We also set the password here, and also we need to import the from app import dp. So we set the password here. Whatever the user enters, we hash it using the set password, and we save the user to the database, and then we pass the user to the cookie, the login cookie, and then we direct them to index. So we need to create the register template. Right click the auth inside the template, inside the auth blueprint. You right click the auth directory and you want to create HTML register. It is not that different than what we already seen. So we inherit from the base template. We show the title here, register. Here is the content, basic register H2 title. Here is the form. The form will call the auth register function that we saw. Here is the secret key. Then here is the username, the label, and the field. There is errors. We will show red color. Here is the email, the label, and the field. Here is the password, label, and the field. Here is the confirmation of the password. And lastly, we just have input for the submission. So let's run the program and see. So we say login, we click login, but we didn't add a link here in the login page. So let's do that. We go to the auth blueprint, click the login. Underneath the submission, what we would do is register, and we're gonna call auth register. We refresh it, and you can see here, and here is the register page. So we'll say max at code logs. So we will register. As you can see, it says congratulations, you are now registered. Let's add a user profile in the nav bar. But in order to do that and continue our blueprints, we have to create a new blueprint for users. We will say a directory users from Flask import blueprint. Blueprint, say users name. And the prefix would be URL prefix would be users. Also, we need its own template folder, templates, and we need to import the routes here to create routes. Flask, import Flask, render template, flash URL4, redirect, and maybe we need request, and we will say from app users import, say maybe route user / we will accept the username. It will be string username. We also need to import the user. We will just import everything here. We'll say user, we'll accept username, say user query, filter by username, and first, and we will return render template users, user HTML, the title, username, profile, user. So this would be the user function. We need to create template directory here. We'll say users, and we will write user extends block content and block table username, and inside the table only show the username and the email. So we have to register the user blueprint in the application. Here in the create app, what you do is here we say from app users import pp as pp register user blueprint. Oh, we forgot to add base. We have to add the user link in the base HTML. If the user is authenticated, then we want to show the user profile here. Say profile. It depends on what you want. Do you want the user profile to be protected, or you want anyone who goes to your website to see your profile? Your profile, we will say users, and then we have to pass the username here. Current user. We will run the Flask app here. There is an error. The error I got was here when I was creating the package init file in the users blueprint. I didn't add the /. I didn't add this. So you have to add in the URL prefix. You have to add / then users in your init file inside the users blueprint. You would run your application now. If you try to, now you can see the profile, right? Because you are already logged in. If we log out, we don't see the profile link here. If we try to log in again, now we can go to the profile. There is some problem. Here is the error. We don't need this. You can see when we click the profile link, the test profile, we see username, test, and the email test, codelogs.com. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel. If you find this useful, please give this video a like. And if you have any questions or comments, please ask. The source code would always be in the description below. So if you have any errors with the code, please feel free to ask me. Thank you, and I will see you next time.